Good afternoon. Hope everyone's having a great day. Just to start, recap Kentucky. Thought it was a great SEC home win over a talented, physical, and well-coached team to get to 3-1 overall and 1-0 in the SEC. Proud of our players and coaches. I thought we needed to play with poise, with passion, and precision for 4 quarters and have a finisher's mentality. And it was great to see us be able to close the game out there on the last drive. Knew we were going to need to fight and scratch and claw and find a way to get it done, and we did. Plenty of positives, lots of room to improve. Really love our leadership, our chemistry, and our culture right now. From a performance indicator standpoint, won the explosive play battle 15-14. Lost the turnover battle 1-2. 1 third down conversion percentage, and I thought that was a kind of a huge statistic in the game. 60% for us to 8% for them. Defense did a great job holding them to 1 of 12. Red zone touchdowns, we were 3 of 4 to 1 of 4, and I did think that was, unfortunately, the one that we missed was a turning point in the game. We were in that 3-by-1 bunch set and had Witherspoon running up the chute there, kind of uncovered, and there were just a couple things from an alignment, and Lee was a little bit confused on the play, but at that point, I think that takes it to 28-3. With a lot of football game left, and I thought we really gave him a chance to get back in it there, but needed to convert that one to kind of get the game, put away. Drive start battle, we lost -26 to -27, and then penalties was a push. Players of the week on offense for us were co-players of the week, Collin Hill and Garrett Schrader. The scout team player of the week was Vincent Taylor. On defense, our player of the week was Errol Thompson. Scout team players of the week were Jack Harris and Jalen Reed. And for special teams, it was Tucker Day. Scout of the week was Sean Preston. Student athletes of the week were Fletcher Adams and Cordavian Suggs. Just a couple notes and odds and ends from Bill. SEC freshman of the week was Garrett Schrader, first true freshman quarterback to earn the honor in school history. First Mississippi State player to earn the award overall since 2016, and first Mississippi State offensive player since 2010 to receive the award. Collin Hill continues to lead the SEC in rushing, only FBS running back with 400-yard rushing games to start the year, and first in school history to achieve the feat. From an injury standpoint, we anticipate Nick Gibson back to practice on Tuesday, Stephen Guidry back to practice on Tuesday, Tommy Stevens to practice in some capacity on Tuesday, and Lee Witherspoon to practice on Tuesday. On defense, Marcus Murphy will return at some point this week with a lower body, and Tyler Williams at some point this week with a lower body. Moving on to Auburn, our first true road game of the year, primetime ESPN game against the 7th-ranked team in the country. Obviously, everybody knows the coach, Gus Malzahn, 57-27 at Auburn, 66-30 in his career, 2013 National Coach of the Year. Interesting stat, has won or played for a conference championship in 7 of his 13 seasons as a head coach, and is 42-10 in his career at home as a collegiate coach. Kenny Dillingham is their quarterback's coach. Run a spread up-tempo scheme with multiple personnel groupings, formations, and motions, averaging 33 a game with 424 yards of total offense, 259 rushing, which is first in the SEC, and 164 passing. Bo Nix, a true freshman quarterback who I did recruit a bit coming out of Penn State, has passed for 645 and 5 touchdowns. True dual-threat quarterback, talented thrower, runner. Obviously, his dad played quarterback at Auburn. And he's done a real nice job as a true freshman so far. Saw the game-winning touchdown pass against Auburn, and in the waning seconds of the game, I thought that showed a lot of poise, a lot of competitiveness. I think he's done a real nice job. Jartavius Whitlow is a tailback, 408 yards, second in the conference behind Collin with 4 touchdowns, excellent speed and vision. Then Eli Stove has 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, good route runner, and they show a lot of speed in the skill positions. Kevin Steele is a defensive coordinator and is one of the best in the country. Base 4 down with 1 and 2 high zone and man coverages, giving up a paltry 15.8 points per game this year, and allowing only 89 yards rushing a game, which is second in the SEC. I think they probably have one of the most talented and productive defensive fronts in the country. Certainly led by number 5, Derek Brown, 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 3 deflected passes, was second-team All-SEC last year. Just a strong, physical, explosive. He's an excellent football player. KJ Britt, the linebacker, has 21 tackles, 21 total, and 7 versus A&M. Active linebacker. He's creating tackles for loss in his first year as a starter. And then Jeremiah Dinson, 21 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception this year. Aggressive safety. Does a real nice job playing the run and the pass. Larry Porter's our special teams coordinator. Really fundamentally sound, using speed and physicality on their schemes. Kickoffs are 82% touchbacks, 16.1 on punt returns, and 5 of 6 on field goals. Christian Tutt is the punt returner, 10 for 16. We talked about that. Kick returns, number 4. I can't pronounce the last name. I'm not going to try. 2 returns for 25 yards and 1 touchdown and 18. He's also a track player for them. And then number 9, Jameis Sherwood is a core special teams player, physical and fast, and he kind of gets the return game going there and does a nice job. Obviously they got a signature win over Oregon to start the season, and then a huge SEC win over Texas A&M this past week. So going to be a huge challenge for us. Obviously going to need a great week of practice, and it'll come down to our preparation, our effort, and how well we execute. So very excited for it. Kids are excited for it. Can't wait to get out there. Haven't been there. This will be my first time to the stadium. So we're pumped up, and we're going to go get after it. So any questions?
Questions. We'll start with Ben.
Coach, you mentioned having recruited Bo a little bit, but obviously, what is the challenge?
Bo
next.
Yeah.
What is the challenge of facing a freshman quarterback when you only really have 4 weeks worth of tape on him? I guess how much does that change things?
Yeah, 4 weeks is a good amount, but I think like I said, having recruited both and kind of tracked his high school career and seeing what he's done so far, I think he and Garrett kind of both have some of that it factor. We're a little bit mature but beyond their years, and obviously, Bo being coached by his dad in high school, and his dad was a great quarterback at Auburn, kind of has some of that savvy that you don't see in a lot of true freshmen. So I think part of it obviously is his talent and ability to beat you with his arm and his legs, but some of that experience beyond his years is the other thing. Very, very, very competitive, and you watch the end of that Oregon game. I mean, he was cool as the other side of the pillow. I mean, he was just kind of unflappable.
Coach, with Tommy and his situation, obviously you're watching him closely this week, but is there a certain point during the week where you make that call, like you said last week, and would it be Schrader again if Tommy's not able to go?
Yeah, I mean, I wish, I'm not trying to be evasive with the answers, but it is a fluid situation, and I know I mentioned last week on Monday at that point he was better than he was a week before, but what I didn't clarify was it was a different mechanism. It was still an upper body injury, but it was something a little bit different than he had the week before, and as the week went on, he just, he wasn't able to go with it. So, we're anticipating him, coming back to practice on Tuesday, and, we just have to see, where it goes. But, yeah, if Tommy's not able to go, then Garrett will be the starter.
Coach, you mentioned Bo Nix being a different player for them. What are they doing maybe different offensively with a new quarterback than maybe they didn't do a year ago?
I think relying a little bit more on. I think the, kind of the foundation of the scheme is the same. They're going to, formation you, motion you. Have some plays where they sugar huddle and run a play, and a lot of those are trick plays, or they get to the line really fast and try to create eye violations with max pros and shots down the field. But I think the thing where Bo's a little bit different than the Stidham kid is, I think Bo's a little bit a little more of a threat with his legs. I mean, Stidham could do it, but he was more of a traditional pocket-style passer, which is why he's playing in the NFL now. But I think Bo poses more of a threat with his feet. So you're seeing a little bit more of that in the run game.
Looking back at the film of the Kentucky game, what stood out to you about the way Garrett was able to handle himself and run the offense, and what areas you want to see him progress with?
Yeah, the ball that he threw to Osiris that was intercepted, I mean, it was the right read. It was just a little high there. So, I mean, he had, was he 13 of 16 in the first half, ended up 17 of 22. I think the one decision making in the red zone, we talk about, avoid the sack, preserve the field goal. So that thing right there, where there were short points, that would be the biggest thing. But I think his ability to make plays by design or improvisation, I think that was probably the biggest thing that stuck out when, the great ones who can extend plays with their feet and make something when something's not necessarily there. Some of the ones where he scrambled and ran, or scrambled and found Malik on a couple of them and checked it down. I thought that showed a lot of patience and poise for a young guy.
Ryan and Tyler.
I don't, in my mind, don't view him as I know he's a freshman, but you know, his approach, and obviously his experience kind of belies that fact. But you know, I think he plays a little bit more mature than most true freshmen.
Last season, this game was possibly your most successful from a running standpoint. You rushed for nearly 400 yards against Auburn. What did you see last year from them defensively that made that possible, and do you see some of those similar traits this season?
I'm just as nervous going to this one as I was last one. You know, I just see a big, strong, physical, athletic front seven that you got to find ways to run the ball on them successfully. And you know, we were very fortunate to be able to do that between Nick, who I think was close to 200. I think he had 195, and then Aries and Collin both combined for kind of in the 150 range. So we were just fortunate to be able to, you know, do some things to keep them off balance and maybe, you know, a little bit more misdirection than we have normally done. But yeah, you're not going to just line up and you know, run the ball downhill with these guys. It doesn't work that way. So we're going to have to find, you know, creative ways to create space and angles.
It's almost October, and you guys are going on the road, true road game for the first time all year. Last year, you guys were a bit of a different team on the road at times.
Yeah, we weren't real.
How confident are you that, you know, this team can kind of shake some of those woos and be better on the road than they were last year?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the process, but the kind of going on the road, and whether it's a bus or a plane and staying at a hotel, and you know, all those things are the same. And I think I say challenging. You probably have a lot more younger guys playing their first pronounced role in a road game this year. And I actually, meeting with the captains and the leadership council last night, you know, sought their advice on some of the things maybe I or we or some guys who haven't played there need to be prepared for. So I think that'll be the challenge of this game. Just, you know, the veteran guys have been there and they know what to do, and obviously our coaching staff has been in environments such as these, but it'll be the guys that maybe, you know, haven't had a true road game in this type of environment.
There were a number of missed tackles in this game last week. How concerning was that? And as a coaching staff, how do you correct that in practice when most teams don't teach practice and tackle into the ground during practice?
Yeah, a lot of it's fundamentals and technique. You know, we do tackle and circuit during the week, which maybe not necessarily, you know, taking guys to the ground, but it is working on the fundamentals and technique of it. And, you know, a lot of it is, you know, pad level, you know, knowing whether you're running inside out or outside in, and, you know, playing low. So those are things that you got to handle in, you know, in individual period during practice. And certainly when you're going thud, you're not bringing the guy to the ground, but you have to be in position where, you know, you would get the guy down. So you don't want to be on the edges, and you want to make sure we're, you know, like I said, doing a better job. The one third down that they converted, the guy could have been sacked. We had someone free to the quarterback, and then Brian had Lynn wrapped up, you know, well short of the sticks. And sometimes you got to give credit to the other guy. I mean, he's a pretty elusive, physical guy. I thought Lynn played a great game, and I thought they have big backs that run well, and certainly the Wagner kid, you know, did some things. But yeah, certainly we got tackled a little bit better.
Coach, you mentioned I think Garrett was 13 of 16 in the first half and threw the ball just a little bit less in the second half. Was that by design, or was it just kind of what y'all were seeing?
Yeah, I don't know what the time of possession was, and it wasn't a kind of a concerted effort to throw it less as much as, you know, I thought we were having some success running it. You know, and then the game situation towards the end kind of dictated. I don't think we had any 3 and outs, which is good. We were able to flip field position, but yeah, you know, it was just how the game played out. It wasn't like, hey, we got to throw it less, you know, when you're completing almost 80% of them. But I think the way Collin was running and how we were blocking on the offensive line, and also game situation, kind of dictated the run-pass ratio in the second half.
You mentioned Garrett's success in the broken down plays and picking up things. How much of that, too, is due to the receivers? Because he complimented the guys for saying they seem to be making more moves, finding places, reading the defense, and getting in spots to make those broken plays, passing opportunities, instead of just him having to keep and go.
Yeah, that's something we work on during camp, and you really don't get to it much during the season. But we have scramble drill rules, so when a quarterback flushes out one way, you know, routes that are going, you know, where you are on the field horizontally, there's a certain thing that the receivers are supposed to do based on where the scramble is and based on what the route is. So a lot of guys followed those rules, and as he flushed, they were where they needed to be, and he was able to find somebody.
Coach, it appeared on Saturday and some other times during the year that Collin was getting stronger as the game went on. Do you see that, and is that attributed to his conditioning or some other factor?
Yeah, I think Coach Corey and the staff have done a real nice job. I mentioned Thomas Cowens and Pam, our nutritionist, that I think our guys, as that game wore on and we needed to finish, we were in real good physical shape and played well. But Colin's just done an unbelievable job with his preparation heading into the season, both mentally and physically. And I think it's as much mental as it is physical, where he can wear you down by his style of running, but also a lot of that is the will to rather than the skill to. And I think he and the offensive line and the tight ends in terms of run blocking have exhibited a lot of that so far, and also having the quarterback, as you saw in the last drive, be a part of the run game takes a little bit of the stress off of him as well.
I think Joel sort of asked this question post-game, but with how well Garrett has played when he's come in, how much does that change how you treat Tommy's shoulder, especially given the bye weeks coming up after this game? You could probably give him a little extra time to recover.
That's a good question. It was a good question by you too, Joel, before. Yeah, and I think it's all contingent upon, where Tommy's at and how healthy he is, and, what we need the quarterback position to do to win this game and be 1-0 this week. So, as always, we want to do what's best for the team first, but also be mindful of the individual as well. And, we'll do that in this case.
I know coming into the year, it looked like Corliss Waitman may be here, so Tucker looked like he might have had some competition coming in, but Corliss obviously didn't end up being a part of this team. But with what Tucker has done this year, was that a motivating factor for him? What do you think's led to Tucker being the weapon that he's been so far through the first few weeks?
Yeah, and I thought that was, I think I mentioned that post game with Neil Price, that we signed Corliss, and he was expected to come in as a graduate transfer, and challenge Tucker for the job. And Tucker, he didn't cower, he didn't jump in the portal. He kind of bowed his back, and his spring performance was as good as he's done, and kind of carried that into fall camp. So I give him a lot of credit and for being a guy that was willing to compete, and and he earned a job, and he's kicking very well. So I'm happy for him.
Coach, 2 games this year, you've had a lead late and then had to drive to kind of put the game away. There's some coaches that get real conservative, kind of go in the shell and kind of coach not to lose, but your play calling seems to be a little different than that. What is kind of your philosophy on that when it's time to go win the game?
Yeah, you talk like 4-minute offense where you need to. Yeah, that was a little bit of a Penn State. Looking at that is something, an area that I didn't think. I go back to that Ohio State game in 2017 that we lost, and I didn't think I did a great job there with our 4-minute calls. And as I mentioned, I did think I got a little conservative. So the one thing that we've talked about there and then here is when you get into the 4-minute drive, maintaining the integrity of your offensive identity, where obviously we can lean on our run and do that at any point, but you still want to have that ability that if they're putting more in the box and you can block, to get out a quick game or throw something or still kind of maintain that, let's say, part of the aggressive nature of what you do. So I think that's something hopefully I've improved on and has shown up this year in the games we needed to close out.
Collin Hill is only about, I think he's 26 carries short of what he had for the entire season last year. Do you feel good about his workload? Do you think he can keep that kind of pace up the entire season?
I do. You get a haircut? Looks good. Yeah, I do, because as I mentioned, how he's prepared, historically, backs in this offense have had between 200 and I think Chase Edmonds at one point, and Fordham had well over 300 carries, and I would have loved to have had the tailback have this many carries last year, but it just, from what we were doing and how we were successful, and as I mentioned before, needing to utilize the quarterback as a number in the run game, that took some of the carries out of the tailback's workload, and now that we're throwing it better, we're seeing more advantageous numbers, and we're able to get some of those carries that went to the quarterback to the tailback. But to answer your question, yeah, I believe he can continue to carry this workload because of how he's approached it and how he's taken care of himself. You mean just in the run game? Yeah, I mean, ideally, I want the starting tailback to have between 20 and 30 touches a game, whether it's carries or catches. I think the quarterback should have 10 design runs and some more of that by improvisation. But I think if it goes back to, the efficiency and explosiveness of the pass game, though, certainly it fell off a little bit 2 games ago, but I think we're throwing the ball a lot better now than we had at any point last year.
Coach, just too quickly. Just one, is Keaton back practicing, and where's he at with that upper body? Is he still lingering? Or?
He's still working to get back to full strength. So he'll be practicing, but he's still not 100% yet.
Sure. And then on the second side with Collin, it seemed like he got, I think the 12-yard touchdown run was a counter kind of. It seemed like he got a couple of sort of 8-9 yard runs on that counter play. Is that something that was by design, or how much of that is just his ability to sort of bounce balls outside? And get outside the side?
There were some inside. There were some split zone plays. There were some kind of power-oriented plays, and then there's some things where if they're trying to, as Kentucky's defense does, you're looking for a way to get speed in space. And for as much as they were constricting the interior gaps, the touchdown he scored on the old leap there, it was a read on the play side inside backer, and it could have been a quarterback pull or a handoff based on whether that guy got sealed or not. And the tackle did a good job sealing him off. Got a great block on the perimeter by the slot, pinning the nickel back in. Farad did a great job chasing it down, and then he dove in. So anytime we're able to complement our interior runs with ones that get them on the perimeter will help balance us out a little bit.
How would you grade out your offensive lines could run blocking?
For that game? Yeah, I think you can run for 250 against a team that we didn't have 60 the year before, and I think we had 2 sacks. I think it was a very good performance by the line and the tight ends.
Coach, it seems that on every perimeter run, we see wide receivers out there engaged and doing a good job blocking, but we see the highlights. When you guys go look at the film, how would you kind of grade how well the receivers have done perimeter blocking?
Yeah, and Coach Johnson does a great job kind of emphasizing it's not just what you do when the ball's thrown your way, it's what you do when you're away from the ball. And we talk about wide receiver blocking and guys going downfield, turning short runs into long runs and long runs into touchdowns. And I know Dedrick and the other guys take a great amount of pride in, being a part of that. And those guys they're doing a real nice job when they may not necessarily be the target of a pass, but they understand that when we can get Collin or one of our guys into open space and we do a great job finishing plays, that it can really be explosive for us.
Anything else? All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you guys. Have a great day. Hail State.